we all have dreams. We all dream. But, it's important to understand the different brain states that we have and levels of consciousness. So different brain waves. First, we have when we're conscious, we're either in beta or gamma. We're all in beta probably right now. You guys are just observing, watching. Beta is like you're kind of doing the dishes, you're functioning, doing active thinking, you're working. That's beta state. Gamma state is when you're hyper-focused, you're hyper-concentrated on things, right? You're kind of being more inspired, you're empathetic. I say in gamma state when you're waking, yes, your psychic awareness, you can be objective and unaffected, right? It's a peak concentration. Those are awakened states. Now, when our brain goes into sleep mode, there's 3 different states, actually 4 different states. 3 are non-rapid eye movements. So we call it NREMs, right? Which would be, first will be alpha, N1, which is a kind of when you start drifting off sleep. It's almost like daydreaming. You're kind of like drifting off, kind of daydreaming, but you're still aware of your surroundings, right? You can still hear things. You can tell someone's talking, but you're kind of in that almost drifting off state. Then we can evolve into theta state, which is N2, which is more like a stable light sleep. Now, a lot of us do this in meditation. You get into that kind of state where you're just like focused, you're in that kind of center, kind of sleeping, but kind of aware, but very relaxed. That's theta. And then we have delta state, which is an N3. It's non-rapid eye movement. I would say that's when you first fall asleep, where you're fully unconscious, but your body isn't paralyzed. And if someone were to wake you, if you're in delta state, you'll feel groggy, you'll feel disoriented and all that. So that's a more of a deep sleep state, but not fully paralyzed state. But the purpose of delta, because we always go through delta state right before we get to REM, which is your rapid eye movement, deep sleep, and we'll get into that. But when you're in the delta state, your muscles are relaxed, but not paralyzed, like I said before. But this is where people doing sleepwalking, having night tremors and all that. So this is where people can actually be unconscious while they're actually walking around and repeating patterns. But their consciousness is so detached from the physical reality that they're not aware. Right. But the purpose for the delta state actually is for it's a physical restoration of the body. It kind of helps to boost immune system, tissue repair, growth hormone release. Right. It's an energy replenishment. As we know, when you sleep, you wake up replenished if you sleep well. Right. And it's like a brain detox, and also kind of puts your memories in consolidation. You get to reprogram, rearrange things from your physical reality into your physical brain in a sense. Right. I like to say as well, when we get into this delta REM state, which we're going to get to talk about next, we go to the astral plane. Okay. Which again, now REM state, the rapid eye movement, is where we're in that highly active brain state, but we're completely unconscious. And this is where you have vivid dreams. Story-like vivid dreams happen. And so that's when you're in your deep sleep. And that's where you're going to have a lot of those realizations, those psychic awarenesses and all that stuff in the REM state. And they call it rapid eye movement because even though your eyes are closed, like your eyes are still like going back and forth, it's almost like your brain is like going like this. But in the REM state, this is where a lot of people can experience sleep paralysis. I don't know how many guys experience sleep paralysis where you kind of, you're conscious, but your body is paralyzed. Right. And I always say this happens when your awareness returns, but the body hasn't really fully unlocked yet. When I've had sleep paralysis, I wake up and I'm like, I can't move the body, but then slowly I regain, feeling of my upper body. So I start crawling until I get feeling in my legs. So it's almost like my soul hasn't fully entered the body. I like to say in that philosophical way. And that happens because it's a quick shift from REM trying to get back into alpha, or back into beta. It's a quick shifting of such. So the consciousness is not really, the body isn't really caught up with consciousness in a sense. That's why that happens. But also in the REM state, this is where we can actually practice astral projection. Astral projection is similar to when we're having sleep paralysis, but we're kind of conscious and at peace that we're outside the physical body. Now, the philosophy for me is when I've had an astral projection is that we're soul consciousness, so we can be conscious no matter what. It's just now we're allowing ourselves to be conscious outside of the physical body, but there's always an energetic cord connected to the physical body that can transmit the information so we can remember. Right. And understand, hey, I had that after body experience. And so that's very important that we are actually more conscious of doing so. It seems like you're separate from the body, but you're like no longer relying on the brain to be the viewer. And I always say the astral projection is more of a spiritual advanced, I would say, technique. Some people have had it because they're working on spirituality and then they have a random experience like this. But most people who've been practicing their own spirituality, they're understanding their soul evolution, they'll have an astral projection experience or be able to deliberately do so, as well as in this REM state can lead to lucid dreaming. That means that you're actually conscious in either state of awareness. And so if you want to deliberately lucid dream, set a symbol before you dream and say, if I see this symbol, I'm going to be aware. And so you tell the brain to say, when I see this symbol, when I'm in my dream state, I want to be consciously aware. Then you can actually be more conscious in your dream state, which is you do what you're doing in the astral plane is what I call it. You're not actually in the physical brain in a sense, because even though the brain we feel is detached from the soul, I always say the body is also a holographic representation of our soul. So it's still connected anyway. Right? Just different levels of consciousness. So delta is where all that stuff happens. Now, when we think about meditation and brainwaves, we usually go into theta state in meditation. That's we could still get messages from spirit, hero, internal psyche, and all that stuff. It's great. But to go deeper, like with a lot of people that do transcending meditation, very rarely do they drift into delta consciously. It's possible with training, and so a lot of yogis have been able to do this. So that does happen when you're in your REM state too. So if we're able to practice, go into these different states from alpha to theta to delta, then to drift into REM, then we could be more intentional of why we're experiencing those different levels of consciousness and what we can do with it. When you practice this, then this could open the doorway to spirit. And this can happen in delta, but a lot of times in REM state too, when we're in deep sleep, that we can get psychic predictions and intuitive downloads. In order to ignite this, you have to be willing in your waking state, and you're working on your intuition already. And when you're trying to build your intuition in the conscious state, when you go into your delta REM state, when you're sleeping, you can then get predictions that you wouldn't necessarily be able to if you're conscious. A lot of times when we're conscious, the brain gets in the way. And you should be asking yourself, when you wake up and you have those memories of such, was that present, past, or future? And then you gauge of it's predicting. You start seeing things happen. You start saying, I had a dream that so-and-so was going to pass away, and I woke up and the next day it passed away. But this is where you want to keep a dream journal. Say, I dreamt of this, or I dreamt this happened, and see how that plays out in the physical world. And then keep going back and try to be conscious with your intuition in your waking state, and then go back in your dream state and be intentional prior to going to your dream state that you want to remember those predictions, those psychic awarenesses, right? And also now, not just with psychic awareness and intuition and all that predictive stuff, you can also receive communication from loved ones in spirit, because when you're in that delta REM state, you are at the astral plane connected with those who are also in the astral plane in spirit. So that means they will come to a lot of my clients see people appear to them in their dream state, like they're like, but they didn't say anything, but they stood there, and there's like a lot of symbology. When you get into that state and you start seeing, you wake up, remember you had a visitation, don't try to look about what they're saying and how they're saying. Look at the energy experience that you're having. Because a lot of times they will say they just stood there and they're holding their heart, and they say, well, that means that they're connected with you and they're still loving you and they're at peace, right? Because they may not come in a physical language. Because in spirit, we don't have physical language. So you want to like recount the actual frequency, the energy of the dreams that we're having. Again, they're going to communicate, because when we raise our frequency to delta, or we're actually in the delta REM state, we're raising consciousness on the spiritual soul level. This is a philosophy that I have about this. Then we're actually integrating with spirits and those that we love in the spiritual level as well. And so the more open we are to that connection, make sure, again, you're writing that down when you awaken from that dream state of what that symbology means. And a lot of times they will show you some sort of a bird, and then you see that bird in your waking state to make the correlation of the dream state as actual communication manifests in the physical to conscious state. So I would say the more you are in tune to what you're doing, how you're processing, and the more you're in tune to spirit, the more you will have those vivid dreams of psychic predictions, connecting with loved ones in spirit. Also, synchronicities can happen in the dream state too, like future guidance, downloads of what you should do next, inspiration of what you should do next. You might be asking your guides, I don't know what to do, like I need inspiration. And then so you get that in your dream state, which is, again, highly intuitive. I would say you're the closest connection to spirit and your own soul expression when you're in the delta REM state. There are a lot of inventors back today. Thomas Edison did this. Ben Franklin did this. Salvador Dali did this, using a technique where they would sit in a chair and they would try to get themselves in like a theta state. They would hold either marbles in their hair, something of that nature, to try to allow the inspiration from spirit, from at least their higher mind, to give them inspiration or to give them some sort of creative idea or an invention. And if they were to ever fall asleep into, say, REM state or delta state, the marbles will drop, waking them up. So they would practice this, allowing themselves to develop the different levels of awareness to their different brain states to gain inspiration, direction, connection from spirit, whatever it may be, whatever you want to define it to be, and practicing such. So, I like to say when you're in that REM state, you actually are no longer in physical reality. Your soul is in the astral plane. And a lot of times what I believe that we're doing, this is my philosophy, that we are rearranging things in our trajectory. Sometimes if we are clearing out karma, we might go in and be in our REM state, and we're actually in the astral plane, rearranging our trajectory, setting things up. That's what manifestation really is. We're not doing it while we're in the physical. We're doing it while we're in the spiritual. We line it up and then we play it out when we reincarnate. So your dream state is really just you allowing yourself to be more in the state of your soul perspective and more detached from the physical. We do need the rest and recalibration in the physical. Like we said, when we're in delta state, we need that tissue repair, immune system regeneration. We need all that to happen while we're in our dream state for the physical body. But the soul also needs a break to reflect and to rearrange. So understand, when you're trying to interpret your dreams, understand a lot of it will be symbolic. A lot of times in our dream state too, we will get past life reconnections or resolutions. A lot of times people have recurring dreams, and I would say you're probably revisiting a past life reality to where you're trying to resolve karma from past lives. So you keep revisiting it. Right? And you might even get information about what you've done in a past lifetime too. And you might appear like you're your current self, but it's really just you demonstrating that you're going back in an alternate reality where you had a past life that was unresolved, or that you keep reliving that unresolved karma. I also found, and this is my philosophy too, that we also in our dream state, we're in the REM state, kind of detached from this physical life, that we're also experiencing and integrating with parallel reality experiences too. Because I feel like I've had so many experiences, I don't call them dreams, to where I like hopped in, saved someone, and then died. And I'm like, why do I have these dreams where I hopped in, I fought someone, saved someone, and then I died and woke up or something of that nature? So I think it's possible that soul might actually reincarnate temporarily in another lifetime to assist somebody in spirit that we might know, or to do something. Because I've had a lot of dreams like that. And I wake up and it's like real, like as if I just hopped over to realities. So there's a lot of activity. And like they say, when you're in the REM state, the rapid eye movement state, when you're in fully unconscious, your brain is fully active. So how could the brain be fully active, but you're not really conscious of it? I'm just saying your conscious is elsewhere. And because we're still connected to the physical apparatus, the physical brain, then we're going to kind of like not have that awareness of such, because we're still processing through the physical brain. But we can allow ourselves to be more fully focused and conscious when it's outside of the physical body with lucid dreaming. So those are great things to practice. So there's a lot of information in your dream state. And so many people say, I don't dream. Well, I say if you're not remembering your dreams, then you're not being quite active or expressive in your current physical life. Or you're not allowing yourself to think outside of your physical circumstances, that whatever's happening in your dream state, you're just not remembering. And I don't dream every night. You don't have to dream every night. But if you're like wondering why you're not dreaming or what's going on, and then you're probably not participating enough in your life or showing up enough in your life to be more discerning, to be more objective. You're taking a step back. You're holding back. And so the more we open, the more we become more spiritually focused, more intuitively focused, the more we become more in tune to our own evolution and becoming a better person and gaining wisdom from our circumstances, then you will actually start having these explosive experiences and dream states. Dreams are very important. They're still another reflection of what we're experiencing on the soul level. And that we're not just here participating in this one physical life either, nor do we only have this one physical life. We have previous incarnations. And so I've seen a lot of cross connections, at least in my experiences, as well as clients and those that I know, that make cross connections to their past lives through their dream state to bring resolve, to bring information, to bring clarity and understanding of the self, even the psychological fears that we have that also manifest in our dream state. So when I help my clients interpret their dreams, I have to let them know, like, this is actually a fear that's manifests from your psychological, your intellect in this current incarnation. It has nothing to do with spirituality or anything from a past life. So it's always good to have someone to help you interpret those dreams, to understand where it's coming from, if you can't have the discernment for yourself to do so. We all have the discernment to do so. It's not that difficult. It's just being honest with the self and allowing the information to be valid for you. So I would keep dream journals by your desk as you're working on yourself in the conscious state. Be more in the gamma state. Right? The beta state is just your function. That's kind of your routine of things. That's you're working, doing additions. That's your routine. You want to be in gamma. You want to be in a state where you're highly focused on what you're doing. That's what being present really is. And the more present you are in this physical life, you allow yourself to be more aware. You allow the brain to be open to those experiences in the delta REM state. You allow the brain to at least absorb higher frequency information, right? So start with a dream journal. Allow yourself to set intentions before dreaming. But again, working in your physical life right now and what's going on in your physical life and opening your perspective to be more spiritually inclined, to be more objective, helps you with this different levels of consciousness. When you're objective, it allows you to see things at higher levels that you wouldn't necessarily before in a limited state of being. Like I said before, you can practice transcending meditation to allow yourself to evolve those different brain states, right? Again, theta is the most common when people are in meditation. For me, I like to hover in between theta and delta. I like to hover between the two because then I can actually somewhat be in meditative state, but also allowing that other information from a higher level of consciousness to seek through as well. The more you practice, the more you become more conscious. The more you practice, the more that muscle expands, figuratively speaking. And the more practice, the more you allow yourself to want more, to strive more, and you'll find to be very rational to do so. You wouldn't feel disconnected from it. I think it's important for us to put into proper categories about different aspects of dreams. So we're just like, I woke up and I felt this. Okay, but ask the question, is it spirit? Is it a prediction? Is it past life regression? Is it a subconscious fear manifest? When we ask those questions, our soul said, it's that, it's this. Oh, and then we make sense of it. Then we allow ourselves to be fully communicative with the soul, no matter what state of consciousness we're in. We allow ourselves to be multidimensional in that sense too, as we already are, but allowing ourselves to be conscious of such too.